We call a Thursday, February 13th Commission meeting to order. First item on the agenda would be approval of the January 23rd, 2020 minutes. And we have some revised ones on the desk, looks like.
Yes, there was error that was corrected by the city clerk. Commissioner Reuter had actually asked a question that Commissioner Burgess was initially stated as asking.
I'll move approval as amended.
I'll second.
Motion and second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda would be the December 2019 financial statement.
This is a report of financial summaries of revenue and expenditure activities for the city of Hayes, month ended December 31, 2019. Revenues in December totaled $5,537,810, a decrease of $1.2 million compared to the same time last year. Some notable areas of increased revenue. It's the end of the year, and it's the time the rest of the budgetary transfers are made. Therefore, revenues will ebb and flow around transfers when we compare to this time last year. The transfer from water sales tax was up $76,500, and the transfer from public safety to reserves was up $70,500. Miscellaneous revenue for new equipment reserves was up $14,300, due in large part to the auction sale of the old generator at the water reuse facility. Water miscellaneous revenue increased $8,100 due to a refund from Midwest Energy on a billing error they found that went back to 2018. Some notable areas of revenue decrease. Year-end transfers contributed greatly to the decrease in revenue mentioned. While a few transfers were increased as compared to budget, several were lower when compared to a year ago, such as the transfer to Commission Capital Reserves, which we cover later. Combined month-to-date, residential and business water consumption was down negative 23% when compared to this time last year. That translates into decreases in water revenue of negative 8% and conservation of negative 60%. Year-to-date, residential business consumption was off negative 4%, with total revenue ending the year up 2.7%. Expenditures in December totaled $6.7 million, which is an increase of $28,841 as compared to 18. Some notable areas of increased expenditure. Other contractual for the sports complex increased $28,500, due in large part to red shale hauled in to improve field conditions. Debt services for the CVB is a new expenditure line in 2019, therefore it was up $353,863. That's intended to be the transfer to take care of expenditures and/or debt service in the future on a bond payment for the North Line Corridor project. This transfer will be dependent on actual transient guest tax receipts each year. Health insurance premiums were up $159,000 due simply to the timing of the payment a year ago. New equipment reserve expenditures increased $121,000 for the budgeted purchase of a water conservation fleet vehicle, fire department and police department radio replacement, as well as police department new vehicle equipment. In our year-end review, a coding error for electricity was discovered between the Intergovernmental Fund and water reclamation expenditures. That correction was made in the amount of $247,000. Therefore, when comparing to a year ago, water reclamation electricity increased, and there's a corresponding decrease in intergovernmental. Water reclamation reserve expenditures were up $1.9 million, due in large part to a transfer made at the end of the year to reimburse the Capital Projects Fund for final water reclamation reconstruction expenditures. Some notable areas of decreased expenditures. You may have noticed a credit in the Airport Improvement Fund of $77,800. That's an insurance reimbursement for damage repair from the August storm. Parks improvement projects fell $20,000 due to the new Ekie Park restroom installed at this time last year, the expenditure for which was split with Special Parks. Other contractual for the swimming pool decreased $19,700 due simply to the timing of payment to the Hayes Rec Commission for the cost sharing at the pool. And other decreases were related to year-end transfers, as we discussed. Month-to-date general fund sales tax collections were at $664,553. That's an increase of $74,000 or 12.5% as compared to last year. Year-to-date general fund sales tax collections are at $7.4 million, up $264,712 or 3.7%. So we ended the year up 3.7% in sales tax. The 6-month average is at 5.4, which is an increase of 4.9% when compared to a year ago. The reported top 10 quarter-to-date sales tax collections by classification was up $187,700 or 10% when compared to this time last year. Once again, the largest increase among them being in new and used car dealers. Those top 10 still represents 75% of the total sales tax collections for December. The portfolio of certificates of deposit on December 31, 2019 totaled $58.05 million with a weighted average interest rate of 2.26%. That's down just 0.03% from a year ago. Total of U.S. Treasuries at par value is at 1.477 with a weighted average yield of maturity of 1.59%. Total balance on a money market account on December 31 was $1.75 million with a current yield of 0.9. Total investments are up 6.32% when compared to this time last year. And if you recall, the reason they're up is, if you recall, last year we were spending a lot of money out at the sewer plant for reconstruction. And finally, you'll find in your packet a summary of general fund revenue and expenditures year-end of 2019. This is in a similar format to what you'll find in the budget. These numbers are unaudited. There's a couple of highlights. Total operating expenditures, which doesn't include the transfer to Commission Capital Reserve, finished the year $445,000 under budget. This contributes to the ability to increase that transfer to Commission Capital Reserves from the budgeted amount of $441,872 to $800,000. Those are the funds that we're able to use and spend cash on projects at your disposal. Total revenues ended the year $571,000 over budget. That includes the $325,000 reimbursement from the Ellis County sales tax. And the unreserved fund balance then stays at a strong $1.75 million.
I'll make a motion that we accept the December 2019 financial statement.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Kim, I have a question on the accommodations on the top 10. That's just for 3 months. That's not year to date.
I'm sorry?
On the accommodations on the sales tax collection by industry, that's just for 3 months where
It's a
down.
quarter, yes. Quarter to date,
Do
yes.
you know what that was for the year on the accommodations?
I believe they ended down a little,
Did they?
slightly, yes.
I'm saying, 'cause isn't that probably one of the first times in quite a while, or not?
It's been a while, yeah.
Really? Just curious. Any other questions?
Could you give me a quick on the debt service for the CVB? A little more detail.
So our plan is eventually, once we know what KDOT is going to charge us for the North Vine Corridor project, we're going to need to send them a payment. And so the difference of what we've got in the grant and what we're going to owe, we're going to need to bond. And the transient guest tax, the plan is the transient guest tax will be paying for that bond. So we've provided for a line item because that extra 2% transient guests we've been putting away, transient guest tax we've been putting away in that fund. So we're going to use that line item for those. For now, we can reimburse ourselves for expenditures because we don't have the bond. But eventually we'll be paying debt service for the bond.
Thank you.
Questions? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda would be citizen comments for non-agenda items. Seeing none. Next item would be employee promotions and new hires.
Good evening, Commissioners. Erin Giebler, Director of Human Resources, and I'm excited to present to you probably a familiar face for you guys, Alyssa Disney, who was recently promoted to the Human Resources Generalist position. She has been with the city for about 3.5 years, and prior to joining here, she was employed by Eagle Communications in their customer service department. Alyssa, who's originally from Nebraska, came to Hayes to play volleyball for Fort Hays State University, where she received her bachelor's in business administration. While in Hayes, she met her husband Dan, a Hayes local, so they decided to make this community their home. They have 2 kids, a daughter, Morgan, who is 4, and a son, Nick, who will turn 2 in May. Alyssa has been a valuable part of the HR team and has shown that she has the skill and drive to take on the extra responsibilities that come along with this new role.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Great, Alyssa. Good for you.
Deputy Chief Shane Preston. This is firefighter Ty Neal. Ty was hired on December 30th of 2019. He came to us from Hastings, Nebraska Fire Department. So we grabbed another Nebraska native. Ty has a bachelor's degree in business administration and is a certified EMT and certified in basic firefighting. He's continuing to work hard on his training requirements, which is typically takes about 2 years to complete all of our high standards that we have. But he has proven himself to be a valued member of the Hayes Fire Department, and I think he's going to make a great addition to the community as a whole.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Don Scheibler, Chief of Police for the Hayes Police Department. Tonight is my privilege to introduce our newest police officer, Miss Jenny Baker. Jenny had moved here in December. She's born and raised in Florida. We've been telling her this is the worst winter we've ever had. As cold as it's going to get, the most snow she's ever going to see. Very fortunate. Jenny was a law enforcement officer in Florida. She's a certified law enforcement down there, worked for the Benel Police Department, which is north of Dakota, Daytona Beach. Not trying to take you back to any memories, but she's hit the ground running. Her field training officers and her supervisors are very happy, so we're very excited about having her on board. So thank you.
Good. Welcome.
Welcome.
to Hayes.
All right, next item on the agenda would be the consent agenda. Item A, I guess we'll go with, would be approvals for the Hayes Area Planning Commission. I have 3, Dustin Shaffley, second term, Jim Schreiber, second term, Michael Vitzum, second term, Hayes Public Library Board, Patty Park, second term, Kathleen Wolf, third term. And then I have some recommendations. Does that have to be separate motions? It doesn't, does it?
The recommendations aren't part of
Okay,
this,
right, okay.
so you can just note that they're recommendations
Okay.
for the next regular
Gotcha.
meeting.
I move approval of consent agenda.
Seconded.
Motion and a second. Okay, all in favor?
I'm sorry, Mason, was that your second?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 5-0. And the recommendation, I have 3 of them for the next meeting, would be, 2 for the Hayes Area Board of Zoning and 1 for the Hayes Area Planning Commission. Next item on the agenda would, no unfinished business. New business would be resolution regarding Ellis County sales tax proceeds.
Last week, the City Commission discussed a request from Ellis County Commission regarding the remaining $284,000 of the sales tax proceeds for the Law Enforcement Center Rural Fire EMS Facility project. The County Commission asked the city if they would entertain reallocating those funds to the Northwest Corridor project. And so the City Commission was amenable to the consideration, asked the city attorney to prepare a resolution, and that resolution has been presented to you for consideration.
Move approval of resolution number 2020-003 regarding remaining proceeds from the countywide retailer sales tax established by the Interlocal Cooperation Agreement dated February 14, 2013.
Oh, second.
Motion and a second. Any comments? I think, like we said last week, if this helps get that project done, this will be good for not only our county and our community. So good luck with that, guys, and hopefully you can get it done sooner than later.
Could you start tomorrow, please? You're really nice.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
4-0, Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, 4-0. My bad. Thank you, Mason. Next item on the agenda, Vine Street reconstruction, 13th to bypass design agreement.
Good evening, Commissioners. John Brown, Project Manager. In July of 2019, the city received a $1 million KDOT City Connecting Link Program CCLIP grant for the reconstruction of Vine Street from just south of 13th Street to the south city limit. In December, the city entered an agreement with KDOT setting forth the terms and provisions for accomplishing the project, and it's now time to hire an engineer to design the project. The project includes the replacement of the concrete pavement, select areas of curb and gutter, sidewalk, ramps, storm sewer inlet tops, pedestrian signals at 8th Street, and then pavement markings throughout. The project to reconstruct the pavement on Vine Street has been in the queue of the capital improvement program for many years. In the CIP of the 2020 budget, it is programmed for construction in 2022 at a cost of about $4 million. As mentioned, the project begins at the south city limit, down here at the intersection of the bypass, and it proceeds north through the intersection with 8th Street, where we would add pedestrian crossings, push-button activated crossings there, across the railroad tracks, and then on down to the about where the main entrance to McDonald's is. You can tell there's a noticeable change in the pavement there, and the pavement north of there is still good. In December, city staff solicited proposals for design engineering that's necessary to produce the construction documents for KDOT to put this project out to bid. On January 6th, the city received proposals from 6 firms. The lowest cost proposal came from Caw Valley Engineering out of Junction City. Caw Valley is the design engineer for the I-70 waterline crossing and booster pump station project, which is currently under construction. The scope of services includes survey design, coordinating with KDOT, getting all the permits, coordinating with utility companies, and everything else necessary to get final plans to KDOT for KDOT bid letting. Schedule-wise, everything is in line for a November 2021 bid letting for construction in the 2022 construction season. Currently, the city share of the project is estimated just to be under $3 million. The $86,745 for design would come out of the $3 million from Commission Capital Reserve that's identified in the CIP. So the options are to authorize the city manager to execute an agreement with Caw Valley Engineers or direct staff to another option, and the action requested is on the screen. I'd stand for questions.
I move to authorize the city manager to enter an agreement with Caw Valley Engineers in the amount of $86,745 for engineering services related to the design of the reconstruction of Vine Street from 350 feet south of the 13th Street to the south city limit to be funded from the Commission Capital Reserves.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any comments?
John, I know this isn't in here, but will we be inspecting that ourselves, or will KDOT be doing the inspection?
No, we will partner with KDOT on hiring a consultant to inspect this as well. So when we get close to the time where it's bids out and we know the contract days, how long it'll take, we'll be hiring a consultant to inspect that as well.
Thank you.
This is just such a much-needed project in my eyes, and I've said it before, I really appreciate the crosswalks at the 8th Street location, given the new housing that's being developed in that area in the old hotel. I've driven down there a lot lately and looked at it, and it is so time for this reconstruction, so I'm really pleased that it's on the table.
And this does get us up to ADA compliance then?
Right. Part of the project will be to make sure that all the sidewalks along the project are ADA compliant and all the crosswalks are.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 5-0. And I want to clarify for the millions watching at home, Commissioner Bruder did not vote on the Ellis County sales tax because he's employed by Ellis County. So thank you for catching that. Next item on the agenda would be North Vine Street. Where are we at here?
Quarter project of the Bill Grant Agreement.
Yeah, okay. North Vine Street Corridor Project Build Grant Agreement. It all runs together.
Still John Brown, project manager. The location for this particular project, the North Vine Street Corridor Project, to refresh everyone's memory, is from just to the south of 32nd Street to just to the north of the intersection of 41st and Mopar with Vine Street. And I'll also give a bit of history. With the closing of the Ambassador Hotel in December of 2015, staff began looking to be proactive towards redevelopment of the area along the North Vine Street corridor. That produced a corridor study recommending roundabouts at 32nd and 33rd Street, 37th Street, and the 41st and Mopar area. By the May of 2018, we hired WSP engineers to begin design services. And in December of 2018, we received a federal build grant in the amount of just over $6 million. In December of this past year, in 2019, we completed right-of-way acquisition, and in January, we submitted final plans to KDOT for a March 25th, 2020 bid letting. So the action tonight is for two agreements to formalize the terms of the build grant and the execution of the project. The first being with the U.S. Department of Transportation for the build grant itself, and then the second being with the KDOT, a city-state agreement that laid out how KDOT is going to administer this project and be basically an agent of the city in receiving the build grant money from the feds and managing the project in line with all of the conditions that are on the federal build grant. So going over some of the particulars of the build grant agreement, it specifies the amount of the award, which is $6,057,827 of 2018 build grant transportation discretionary funds. The construction must begin by July 31st of 2020, and all costs must be incurred by May 15th of 2022. So we are on schedule to accomplish meet those dates. Currently, the estimated total construction cost is $8,750,223. That does not include the right-of-way acquisition costs and engineering design. The city must submit various reports to the U.S. Department of Transportation. The city must also submit performance reports to the U.S. Department of Transportation in the form of auto crash rates and intersection delay for 3 years following the completion of the project. This is in line with the build grant application that we submitted that indicated that the improvements would improve the safety of the corridor, reducing crash rates, and also improve the level of service at the intersections, people trying to access Vine Street from the side streets and businesses. And we'll be able to show, hopefully be able to show that we've accomplished both of those with the project, and we'll be reporting on that for 3 years following the completion of the project to the US DOT. And then finally, it specifies that KDOT is the pass-through agency for the city, which means that KDOT will advertise, open bids, and administer the project for the city of Hayes. The particulars of the KDOT city-state agreement is that KDOT will be the limited agent of the city for the purpose of assisting in the receipt and the disbursement of the $6 million plus federal build grant funds for this project. This will be a KDOT-led project. As I mentioned, March 25th, KDOT will open bids in Topeka. Within 50 days after the bid letting, the city shall pay to KDOT the city's share, which is the amount of the project costs exceeding the $6,057,000 from the build grant funds. So the build grant funds will be dispersed directly to KDOT. We pay our share to KDOT. KDOT pays all the bills. Inspection shall be accomplished by certified inspectors under the direction of a licensed engineer. The city and KDOT will hire a consultant to perform construction engineering services from KDOT's list of pre-approved construction engineering firms. That will be coming to you at the same time as we have bids to award for the construction. And then finally, following an audit of final project costs after the construction is complete, the city and KDOT will reconcile any additional funds due to KDOT or reimbursement of overpayment by the city. So as I mentioned previously, the schedule is bid letting in March of 25th, and we'll have an agreement for inspection along with the award of bid in April for construction in the 2020 and 2021 construction seasons. Financial considerations, the estimated cost is $9.3 million. The CIP for the 2020 budget included $3.3 million for the city share of the project costs. And your options are to enter agreements with the US DOT and KDOT or direct staff to another option. And the action requested is on the screen, and I'd stand for questions.
I move we authorize the city manager to enter into the FHWA for year 2018 bill grant with the U.S. Department of Transportation to construct the North Vine Street Corridor project.
Second.
Motion second. Comments? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
I'll authorize the mayor to enter agreement number 245-19 with the Kansas Department of Transportation for the North Vine Street Corridor project.
I'll second.
Motion second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
Thank you, John.
I will tell you, for people who still say they're against that project, I was, Tuesday night, I was driving back from getting my ice cream cone. There was a semi driving on the frontage road. The car was trying to turn out, and that car about got crunched. I would have died to take a photo, but had my ice cream cone in hand, so I couldn't do it. But it was, yeah, it was pretty ugly, and it will stop stuff like that, so I'm really looking forward to the project.
I saw a group of kids, just because you mentioned that, high school kids, that their bus was on the west side of Vine Street, and they were trying to get over to the east side of Vine Street, and the traffic was so thick, and those kids were going in through there, and I thought, oh my gosh, we're almost there, we're almost there. So this is a good night.
Next item on the agenda, rezoning of 2909 Roosevelt Street from Public and Institutional District PI to Residential General District RG.
Good evening, Jesse Rohr, Director of Public Works. So my first item tonight is to ask for consideration of approval of a rezoning request that has been submitted for the property at 2909 Roosevelt. And this is to rezone from PI, or Public and Institutional District, to RG, or Residential General District. The property owner did recently split this lot from the parent tract, the large tract there at 1605 East 29th. The adjacent neighborhood is entirely zoned NC2, which is our neighborhood conservation low-density single-family dwelling district, and is very logical for this area to continue as residential. A public hearing was conducted on January 27th of this year at the regular meeting of the Planning Commission, and a vote of 6-0 in favor of the request was passed. This shows the current zoning. You can see in the yellow greenish coloring the NC2 district, single family, and the red subject property in the red triangle there. Although RG is a different designation, it is still single family and equally compatible with the current NC2 district. On the comprehensive plan, as we always look at for any rezoning, the area is identified as well as light density residential. Again, very compatible with the area, and this rezoning request does conform to the character of the neighborhood and the surrounding property. When approving any rezoning, it's important to keep in mind once zoned, any of the permitted uses could be allowed on the property. There are 5 different permitted uses, uses permitted by right within the RG district, as you can see on the screen here. Property does have city water available currently. City sewer is very close, and upon development, the owner of the lot would simply extend the sanitary sewer in order for them to connect. That cost of doing so would be upon the developer. I did mention the Planning Commission did pass this. We're in favor of this request by 6-0 and do recommend approval of this request as submitted. For this item, your options are on the screen. These are the 3 options afforded you by state statute. You can approve, as was recommended by the Planning Commission, If you would choose to override the planning commission's recommendation, it would take a 2/3 majority vote of the city commission. Or if you had issues or questions or needed additional information, you could return the recommendation to the planning commission for further discussion. And this would be the action requested.
I'll move to approve ordinance number 3980, rezoning the property at 2909 Roosevelt Avenue from PI Public and Institutional District to RG Residential General District.
Motion and second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda, nuisance abatement at 1723 Agnes Drive.
Okay, my next couple items are a couple nuisance abatements that unfortunately we have to bring to you from time to time. The first one being 1723 Agnes. The property owner does have a address and I believe resides in Kansas City, and they have not responded to any of the required notifications that were sent by city staff. We did also try to address in writing the issue to the tenant of the property. The house does appear to be vacant at this time. In the past, we've had, as you can see, various violations in the past on this property. In the past, we have had success with the tenant, working with the tenant, getting issues taken care of, but not this time. The majority of the items are located behind the fence in the alley. There are several items. There is also a few items just inside the fence, which portion of the fence is open. This are pictures from back in November. This was pictures from when the certified notice was sent in December, and as of today, it looks at least as bad, if not just a little bit worse. So. Your options would be to either approve a resolution allowing the abatement of the property. That abatement would occur 10 days after the signing of the resolution, or not approve the resolution. This would be the action requested and resolution number if you would choose to do so.
I move we approve resolution number 2020-004 to abate the nuisance items located on the property at 1723 Agnes Drive 10 days after the approval date.
I'll second.
Motion and second. We're in favor of the motion, say aye. Oh, sorry.
Quick
My bad.
question.
Sorry, bad.
Just do we know, is that property listed for sale?
Not that I'm aware of.
I'll make a general comment. After work today, I drove by both of these properties, and as of 2 hours ago, nothing has been taken care of. So I think we've given them up to the last minute.
And you can probably agree the pictures don't really do them justice.
They look exactly as you did with
Or
other
worse.
stuff scattered. So.
Sorry about that, Commissioners. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda, vehicle nuisance abatement at 520 West 17th Street.
Okay, for the property at 520 West 17th, we do have two separate nuisance abatements, or one nuisance abatement and one vehicle abatement. One presentation, but they would require separate action items. Many issues over time have been resolved on this property. As you can see, we've had 30+ nuisance cases at this particular property since 2012. We've come to the commission a couple times for items at this property, the most recent being September of 2009 when we were here to abate a vehicle that was in the rear yard of the property. Since that time, another vehicle has now appeared and is in violation, as well as all the general nuisance items on the property. Notifications have been sent as required by city ordinance, and the certified mail sent to the owner was sent back as undeliverable. We believe that the owner now resides in Wichita. When they moved from this property to Wichita, they did leave a forwarding address with the city clerk's office, but again, no success in.
Did you just forward the vehicle to them?
that would be nice. And again, the yard is full of junk items, as we've seen, I think, more than 30 times over the past several years. And these are, again, from December, and as Commissioner Burgess says, no change today whatsoever. Options, again, to approve the resolution, actually two resolutions, one for the general nuisance abatement and one for the vehicle for the property at 520 West 17th, or provide other options to staff. And these would be the two actions requested.
I'll move to approve resolution number 2020-005 to abate the nuisance items located on the property at 520 West 17th Street, 10 days after the approval date.
Seconded.
Any comments on that?
Would you go back to the pictures real quick? So that shed there that has items inside, I mean, who's going, as you go about cleaning this property up and abating items, who, I guess, supervises, and how do we determine what items are on the ground that need to be abated, or if they're inside? That shed has a broken door, but are we going to be inside their property removing items?
On something like this, yeah, if we cite it in the abatement notifications, we will remove the property. It's hard to see in the picture here, but a good majority of the shed roof is gone itself, therefore not affording adequate covering for the items within the shed. If they were standard items that you would find in a rear detached shed, such as a lawnmower or snow blower or those general items, bicycles, they would most likely be left. However, it's not the case with these items. I try to be there when this happens to supervise items that are taken. We won't take items that, again, would normally be found in anyone's backyard, or anything that even looks like it has value to it. We take pictures during the process. You know, we've taken pictures throughout here and have that for future reference if required. So.
That's a really good question. So we will not actually tear down the shed, though, correct?
This does not involve the shed at this time. Now, you know, we're hopeful someone else taking over the property. There was quite a bit of work done to the house recently, prior to the current owner moving. We could be back here in the future dealing with the shed and other property issues. Hopefully that's not the case. So.
Have there been any rodent issues?
Not that we're aware of.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0 on the first motion. Oh, I guess we need another
I
motion.
move we approve resolution number 2020-006 to abate the vehicle located on the property at 520 West 17th Street, 10 days after the approval date.
Seconded.
Motion and a second. Any comments on that? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda, I will open a public hearing for the establishment of a redevelopment district, D&J land TIF, and when we close this, I will need a motion.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. Kim Rupp, Director of Finance. We are in receipt of an application for economic incentives from D&J Land Development LLC. The developer is requesting tax increment financing, or TIF, Community Improvement District Sales Tax, or CID, an assignment of a grant made by Kansas Department of Transportation to Ellis County, and the conveyance to the developer of 4.6-acre tract of land owned by the city. This public hearing and the consideration of the ordinance following are the next steps in the statutory process for TIF financing being requested. This map represents the developer's rendition of Phase 1. Phase 1 is expected to consist of 11 lots and include construction of all infrastructure necessary to serve the TIF district, including streets, water lines, sewer, surface parking, and other related improvements. The developer will construct a travel plaza and truck wash on 2 of the lots. Travel plaza will consist of a 10,000 square foot full-service travel plaza and convenience store, including 14 fuel pumps, scales, a restaurant inside the travel plaza, and personal hygiene amenities. The truck wash will be a 6,000 square foot building to house 2 bays for washing semi-trailer trucks. The developer anticipates the remaining lots in Phase 1 will be sold or leased to other end users for potential development of hotels, restaurants, and other commercial uses. This map depicts the proposed TIF boundary. The public hearing and ordinance are the next steps in the process required under state law to approve TIF financing for the project. The primary effect of passing the ordinance is locking in the base year assessed valuation on the project site. After the ordinance becomes effective, any future increase in property tax generated within the TIF boundaries will accrue to the TIF fund with the exception of certain state and school district mill levies. Those are exempt. The TIF fund will be held separately by the city for purpose of reimbursing the developer for eligible project costs on a pay-as-you-go basis pursuant to the development agreement entered into by the city and the developer. According to the city's economic development policy, this TIF district will capture the incremental taxes only, not the sales tax. So since this has been annexed, all taxing authorities will receive the retailer sales tax generated by the property. The TIF is a 20-year term according to statute and will be on a pay-as-you-go basis, meaning the developer funds all of the financing of the development with no bonds issued by the city. According to the summary of economic development incentives requests received from the developer, some of the financial considerations included total construction cost of the Travel Plaza and Truck Wash to be $20.9 million. Upon sale of all the development lots and completion of Phase 1 development, they estimate that the appraised value of Phase 1 with all improvements will be $40.8 million. The developer also estimates that the Phase 1 development will, upon completion, create $38.7 million of annual retail sales and $3 million of monthly diesel and gas sales. Over the 20-year life of the TIF, it's expected to generate $14.9 million in ad valorem property tax revenue, and the reimbursement of the TIF eligible costs would be $12.4 million, which excludes the $1.5 million KDOT grant. As we have discussed in the beginning, this economic incentives request is multifaceted, so this is a lengthy process. Here you can see we've had the annexation and resolutions has set tonight's hearing. In March, we'll be back with a combination of resolutions to set public hearings for project plan and CID. Then we'll wrap up in May. If the commission passes the ordinance and neither the county nor the school district exercise its veto right, the next steps would include negotiation of TIF project plan and development agreement between city staff and the developer. The developer may subsequently approach the city regarding annexation and incentives for a second phase of the project on a 15-acre lot located immediately north of this project. This potential phase 2 is briefly discussed in the term sheet but is not considered at this time. Any requests relating to phase 2 would be subject to the same things we've been through: commission review and approval of notice, protest periods, publications, public hearings, etc. So options this evening would be to adopt the ordinance establishing the TIF after you close the public hearing, would be to adopt the ordinance establishing the TIF, decline to adopt the ordinance, or provide us with other direction. And so our recommendation is the action requested.
Do we need a motion to close the hearing, public hearing?
Do I have
After
to
you
ask?
seek public comment.
Yeah, is there any public who would like to comment on this tonight?
I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
I move we approve ordinance number 3981, establishing a redevelopment district, D&J land TIF.
Seconded.
Motion and second. Any comments?
On the district, I'd like a little bit of clarification. On the rendering from the developer, it looks a little bit different than if you look at the aerial view. And the aerial view shows that little extension going on to 55th Street. What is that?
That is, so part of the incentive package is, part of the project is to rebuild the intersection of 230th and 55th. The county was awarded a grant in 2016, I believe, from KDOT, $1.5 million grant for construction support for the rebuilding of that intersection. The developer has asked to have that grant transferred from the city to them upon successful completion of the project. And this is more development agreement stuff, but I'll go ahead and let you know kind of what's coming. We reached out to KDOT as part of the project, and KDOT said we want the city to oversee that part of the project. So we will actually be overseeing the bid letting and everything on that portion of the project, and then invoice the developer for it. But the grant wasn't just for the north-south portion; it was also for the east-west portion as well. So what they did is they drew the TIF boundary in. they included enough to capture right-of-way and the fullest extent possible of that intersection that would accommodate future improvements. That way, it was included in there, so then when they capture their property tax revenue to help pay off their debts, the district was clearly defined as far as the improvements. Does that make sense?
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 5-0. No progress, right? Commission inquiry and comments, Commissioner Mellick. By Toby, anyway.
No
I have
problem.
nothing this evening.
Commissioner Burgess.
Happy Valentine's to everybody tomorrow. I have nothing.
I have a funny story. Have to end on a funny story. I have a friend that utilizes 32nd, 33rd Street area out there for a retailer almost every single day. Well, we have a small section closed off to do some street work, right? Is that 32nd, Jesse, or 33rd? 33rd. It's just a little from where you go into O'Reilly's to where you come out of Ace. Well, she goes every single day, and she has determined that we're using that as a test to see how a figure 8 roundabout's going to work. And she said to tell you, it works great.
That's a good start. I got nothing on that. No executive session. We're adjourned. Oh, I got something.